start out, I want to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do, what we do with PAVE and PVA. My name is Joel Hoots. I'm a vocational rehabilitation counselor within PAVE. So PAVE is PVA's employment program. What we do is serve all veterans, so that's transitioning service members, family members, caregivers, with a focus on barriers to employment. We offer high-touch engagement to help our clients identify their unique value as it relates to employment. And we provide one-on-one vocational counseling, and we like to focus on kind of goal-oriented counseling to engage and support your goals towards employment, education, or volunteer opportunities, whatever that may be. So this is just a kind of a map of where we're located. We are nationwide. We're West Coast to East Coast. I'm located in the San Antonio office, currently working from the home office. And then you can see we have Philadelphia, Virginia, Atlanta, Georgia, Minneapolis, and Long Beach. And we also have 2 employment analysts in San Diego area and Atlanta, Georgia. So a little bit more about PAVE Connect, which is what we're doing today. We kind of came up with this at the end of last year. It's a new employment support program, when and where it matters. So the goal is to interact with PAVE staff, like myself and our other counselors and employment analysts, and other experts through virtual meetings like today. We try to provide access to timely, relevant career information on your schedule from any device, and discover meaningful educational, volunteer, and employment opportunities. We do meet with employers eager to hire from the military and veteran community, and we actually kind of started transitioning that to our PAVE Connect sessions as well. So if you do see an employer, feel free to sign up. They have a lot of good information on there, and you're getting it directly from the horse's mouth. So it's kind of a cheat sheet of how to get hired with a certain company. So some other services we provide here at PVA. We have our PAVE program that I just explained. We do have some medical services, which engage the VA on the quality of care. So we do try to improve that quality of care for all veterans. We offer free design and assistance and accessibility advice on architecture. And then we have a pretty vast network of NSOs, or the National Service Officers, to assist with VA claims and benefits and things like that. So if you're looking to increase, start a claim, anything like that, we have even more of those all across the country. And then we have some education and research grants for quality of life research, and then other legal services. So today we're here to talk about the GI Bill. We're going to be going over, some financial things about it. I know that's a big concern for a lot of people going back to school. How am I going to support myself? Basically the start and very basics. So, and then I added a new slide at the end, kind of related to the COVID pandemic and things like that. So the first step in any process with the VA is applying for those benefits. A lot of people ask, what's the best way to apply? And according to the VA website, the best way to apply right now is online. So when you go to that VA Gov landing page, you scroll down a little bit, you'll see 4 white squares, and one of those squares is an education one. And you can hit that apply for benefits button, and it's going to go right to the next screen, apply for education benefits. And they have that frequently asked questions page, but if you scroll down a little bit, you say, how do I apply? And you click the button and it starts you going through the process. You fill out some of those bubbles. So if you're applying for new benefits or whatever it may be, that's going to get you, it's a pretty simple process. You just go through their prompts. So that's going to be that first step in applying. So the next thing is kind of the breakdown, like what do you have, what kind of services are available to you. So there are 3 different chapters typically that people have. So you have Chapter 30, which is the Montgomery GI Bill, and some post 9/11 people may have that. So you might want to look into it. If you paid into it, you do have it, and it is accessible to you. A lot of people are going with Chapter 30 or the Chapter 33, which is the post 9/11 GI Bill. And then there's a Chapter 31, which is vocational rehabilitation and employment. I put this little graphic in there. That is directly from the VA website. So this kind of goes over if you served less than 3 years or the 36 months, you can get a good estimate based on your knowledge of your time in service, on what you'd be eligible for. So you can see it breaks it down to 90, 80, 70, 60%. If you've served over 36 months, that won't apply to you. You can disregard that. And then there is one more update. I didn't put it on a slide. I put it in my notes to remember to talk about it, though. As of January 1st, 2013, the GI Bill or the Forever GI Bill, they passed some legislation on basically extending the limits of your benefits. So anyone before January 31st, 2013 has a 15-year limit to start the process of using their GI Bill. Anyone after January 1st, 2013, there's no limit to the start of that process. So you could wait 20 years and then use your benefit to go to college, basically. All right, so what do we do after we complete the application? You're going to be waiting probably. They're going to send you correspondence in the mail or via email letting you know, that you registered, and they're looking over it. So they do have to review your time in service and things like that to justify what your rating is going to be based, or how much percentage you're going to get out of that GI Bill. But a good thing to do during this time is start researching schools in your area or where you plan to move or get out of the military, what schools are around there. Decide, do you want to go to a state university? Do you want to go to out-of-state university? Do you want to go to a private university? Those all may have different costs, so you're going to want to look into that and see what the GI Bill is going to pay for. Usually state schools are your best bet because that's going to be the least impact on your finances because the GI Bill typically pays the entire cost of state schools. So I did kind of mention this a little bit, but think about where you want to live. Are you going back to your home of record? Are you going back to a new place? Are you going back to the home of record and then moving? So those are things you want to consider where you want to go to school. And then consider a major for coursework and the prerequisites you might have. And then contact the school and apply, or if you're going into employment or something like that, you can do that too. And just to note, we do have, so for anyone who doesn't know what they want to do for a major, we have another PAVE Connect session. I think it's Tiffany Miller that does it, and she goes over, a good way to kind of outline how to choose a major. And she actually gets into the labor market statistics for determining what the best option would be based on your interests. And because you're really looking ahead 2 to 4 years when you're going to be getting a job, not right now. So you want to be sure that those jobs that you're getting a major in are going to be available. So this is a great tool that's on the VA websites, and this is a really cool way to research what I just mentioned on the last slide about what school you want to go to. So this is all one page. I just split it up to fit it on here, but there is on the main page you can find that the GI comparison tool on the VA website, and then it has drop-down menus for your military status, which GI Bill benefit you want to use. That would go back to the Chapter 30 or the Chapter 33. And you can actually compare those two and see what, how much you're going to get out of them. And then you can choose your level of service. And then you can go down to schools, employers on the job training. So that's like the OJT and apprenticeships, the vet tech training providers only. And then you can choose online, in person, online. And you can and then you can enter your city. So if you want to search Austin, Texas, for example, you can just type Austin. And when if you do type a city, it'll bring up other employers. So if you switch to the employers or apprenticeships, it'll give you recommendations for things like plumbers, police officers, carpenters, iron workers. So if that's something you're interested in, this is a really cool way to search, and they've done a lot of the work for you and kind of put it all in one place. So another important step when you're applying for school, which is something some veterans may not think about because they have the GI Bill, is you can apply for Fafsa as well you can apply for it at any level, but I'm strictly talking about undergraduate right now. So the first thing is it's free to apply. I have seen plenty of websites out there that will try to charge you for the service. Do not pay for the service. It's free. Just if you're on the wrong website, they'll try to charge you. If you're on the right one, they won't. You do need to be prepared with quite a bit of personal info because you will have to fill out an online profile to apply with Fafsa. It's going to ask you a lot of financial information, addresses, if you've ever used any social services, things like that. So you're going to want to kind of gather some things together about your personal finances and things like that before you get on there. But so when you apply for this this is directly related to the Pell Grant, which is, like it says, it's a grant, so that's free money that you don't have to pay back that you could be eligible for. And I think the max amount is somewhere around $6,000 for the year, but which breaks down to about $3,000 per semester, and that can be, a big difference in surviving, and saving money and things like that if you're going to school and not working or something like that. The other thing that's going to come up with that is the subsidized versus unsubsidized loans. And this information gets sent to your school, but it'll give you, an idea of what you might be eligible for when you first apply. But it's not going to be until you actually apply to the school and work through their financial networks that they'll determine what you can get at that school. And then there's a difference between the subsidized and unsubsidized. Subsidized would be loans that don't accrue interest while you're in school, and then unsubsidized will accrue interest while you're in school. But you still have, a 6-month period after you graduate before you have to start paying them, or after you stop taking classes, I should say. And the last thing is the federal work study program. So you can work for the school, get money out of that. That's tax-free money, so it doesn't sound like much at first, but when it comes out, it's not taxed, so it's actually a little bit higher than you might think. And then always be sure to apply early for FAFSA. It used to be on January 1st you could apply. They bumped that back to October now. So this October you could apply for the following academic year. And the Pell Grant money, there is limits to that. So, when it's gone, it's gone. So the earlier you apply, the higher chance you have of accessing some of that money for a school. So making contact with the school, I recommend going directly, like you can either Google and call them or go to their campus. I know right now with COVID, you may not be able to do that, so emailing and calling may be the best bet. But go talk to your Military and Veterans Affairs office first and foremost. They're going to get you oriented to the places you need to go. They're veterans themselves usually, so you have some common ground, and they can communicate with you in a way, and you can communicate with them in a way that you guys both can understand. I went to college. I used my GI Bill, and I found that was where I got the most information of where to correctly go next. But usually the next a couple of the next things you have to do is admissions, orientation, financial office, things like that. The big thing about finance is follow up every semester with them. You may have to submit some documents stating that you're using your GI Bill still. So they'll kind of give those guidelines to you, but definitely, start reaching out to those places, see what you need to do for them, if they need any other documents from you. So tuition payments this is just kind of a breakdown of how they pay tuition. So the tuition is usually paid directly to the school, and that can include tuition, fees, even sometimes insurance. It can include meal plans sometimes. You can kind of look into that with your school and how they work that out. And then there is a BAH or the MHA, the monthly housing allowance, and a book stipend, which are paid directly to you while you're attending class. So then this just breaks it down to the tuition fee payments. So public school, you see all tuition and fee payments for in-state schools, which is what I mentioned early on. So they'll pay whatever they basically say with tuition and fees, they'll pay it. If you go to a private or foreign school, there is a limit. It's that $25,162.14 per academic year. So that's for the entire year. So that's about $12,500 a semester. So that's something to think about if you do decide to choose a private school. Now there is a small caveat to that. Some of the private schools are what we call yellow ribbon schools. What the yellow ribbon program essentially does is pay that difference that your GI Bill doesn't cover. These programs are limited, so not every school has to participate in it. You can look up a list of them on the VA websites, or you can just Google, yellow ribbon schools, and it'll give you a list of a lot of the schools that participate. They do have limited slots for these programs as well. So a school could offer a yellow ribbon program, but they could have a full amount of participants and not have any funds left. So again, this is something it's good to apply early and be informed about the schools that do offer it, so you can apply for it and receive the benefit if it's available. And there's also I put the kind of the qualifying maximum benefit on there. You'll see. They have to offer the yellow ribbon program, and they have to have the benefit or they have to have, the yellow room benefits more than the maximum number of students in their agreement status, which is basically, they have to have room for you. And then you do have to have the 100% as well. So you can't have 90, 80, or 70 and then have that cover the difference. You do have to have that 100% GI Bill rating already. So, and then to get into the BAH payments, there's a really good BAH calculator. You can Google this as well. But I use San Antonio because that's where I'm located right now. But you'll see with the BAH payments, it's always going to be E5 with dependents. So whether or not you're married, whether or not you have dependents, that is the set amount that you'll always get. So if you're looking at those two, it's going to be the $1,656. And obviously that's going to change based on where you're at. So, I know they changed some things up a little bit. It was the school, wherever your school zip code was, and I think they may have changed some of that with the coronavirus things going on to be your actual home of location. But I would have to follow up with that because so many things have changed that I'm not positive. But it was the location of the school where you get the BH paid. So it's easy to look up the zip code and get an estimate of what you'd get on a monthly basis for housing. The book stipend and rural benefit. A lot of people don't know about the rural benefit, but if you're, so many miles outside of a big city where there's a school that you want to go to, you can request a $500 benefit for rural physical relocation for educational purposes, though. So you'd have to be moving closer to the school to attend the school that you want to move to. And then there's the yearly book stipend of $1,000, which is paid proportionally per semester. So if you take, 12 semester hours each semester, you'll get 500 or approximately that. You are taking, say, 9 credit hours, 6 credit hours, they would pay that appropriately based on, what you would need for books. So this is the non-college degree granting institutions. So there's a lot of people may not be aware that you can use your GI Bill for apprenticeships, vocational flight schools, correspondence schools, which is really just online training. And you can also use them to pay for national testing programs, licensing, and certification tests. So if you notice there, the national testing programs don't have a limit on what they can pay. The licensing and certification tests do have a limit up to $2,000. I put this graphic in here to the right, the apprenticeship and on-the-job training program. So this is how they break it down when so the post 9/11 pays that monthly housing allowance, which is the MHA. You can still get that while you're working. In an apprenticeship, you're usually going to be making a living wage, and then you'll get your monthly housing allowance at 100% on top of that for the first 6 months, and then it goes down from there and kind of trickles off. But by the time you're in a career about 4 to 6 months, you may have gotten a raise, you may have got the training you needed to get that extra money. So it's kind of a buffer for you to build up your experience in that field and start earning more money. So this is kind of a breakdown of semester hours and how they calculate GI Bill. This is very basic, but this is a good idea. This is kind of gets you a good idea of what your finances might be. So most colleges for spring and fall semesters consider full-time students 12 credit hours. So anything below that, you're part-time. Anything above that, obviously, you're still full-time. Summer semester is a little bit different because it's a shorter period of time. It's only 8 weeks instead of 16, so it's only 6 credit hours to be full-time. One thing some people don't think about is the way your GI Bill works. They charge monthly amounts based on the semester. So a spring semester may be 4 months, but a summer semester is only about 2 months. So you're actually getting a benefit by taking summer classes because you're using less of your GI Bill for the same education. Because that class only takes 8 weeks as opposed to 16 weeks. I would recommend taking 1 or 2 classes over the summer because you're getting basically double out of that GI Bill at that point. And then all you have to have is 6 credit hours to be full time, and you'll get that monthly housing allowance over the summer as well, because that does cut off when you're not in school. So calculations for part-time, this is kind of just a breakdown. This has changed since I've used it, but basically if you're more than 50% but less than 100%, it's calculated to the nearest 10%. And so I've put an example here. So if you're taking only 9 credit hours, that would be about 3 classes if they're 3 credit hours apiece. So you just do 9 divided by 12, which comes out to 75%. They would round that up to 80%. So, and then you take that calculation back to whatever your BAH calculation was. So for San Antonio, it was 1656. You take 80% of 1656, and that would be the amount you get paid monthly while you're attending school part-time. I know that's a little confusing, and we'll do questions at the end. I just want to get through all this stuff, and we can go back and talk about all of it. So distance learning, that correspondence learning. So this one, you do have to be enrolled for at least 51% of a full-time schedule. And if you're at 50% of your, and then basically you get 50% of your monthly housing allowance for that distance learning. So again, you would just take the 1656 for San Antonio, and it would be half of that. And then this is kind of a weird thing too. So if you're attending one in-person class, you can increase that to 100%. So if you're doing all distance learning, you're going to get half that rate. But if you're taking, a mix of both, you can bump that up to 100% unless you're part-time. That would change it a little bit too. So the biggest takeaway is that, you're be intentional with your GI Bill. Like I mentioned, if you want to talk to our counselors or employment analysts about, goals for jobs, or check out our PAVE Connect with Tiffany Miller, that'd be a good place to start to kind of understand how to do some research on what you might want to do and how that would fit in with, the labor market in the future. And acquiring a college education without student loans today it's an incredible benefit. You're getting that education and getting out into the job market with minimal debt. So the GI Bill is an amazing benefit. I know a lot of people have started using it, but there's a lot of veterans out there that still aren't. And it's at least worth a look into. College, you can grow and learn new things and find out things that you didn't even know were available to you as well. So definitely advocate for use of it. So this last slide, I just wanted to add in, because of the COVID pandemic and everything, there is some new legislation that is being pushed by PVA and some other organizations like SBA. Basically, it was presented for veterans who may have lost their jobs during the COVID pandemic, and it retrains into high demand fields. Now, this is not a new program. It's something that ended in, I believe it was March 2014, and they're trying to bring it back specifically for veterans who had an increase in unemployment during the pandemic. But basically, and you can look this up on their websites. I'll actually provide the link. But basically, it provides something around 12 months of that kind of 9/11 GI Bill benefit. So they have the monthly housing allowance and things like that towards classes to a new career. And then the eligibility is a little bit different now too. It used to be 35 to 65. Now it's 25 to 65. Well, that's what they're pushing for. But you can't have any other education benefit being used. So you can't be using your GI Bill or vocational rehab. You have to be unemployed, but not on unemployment, honorable or other than honorable discharge, and then your VA compensation claim cannot be related to individual unemployability. And if you don't know what that is, you probably don't have it, so it's not a huge concern. But and then the high demand jobs haven't been defined yet. They'll have 60 days after the legislation is approved to decide what those jobs are. But usually it's, in the field of STEM, so science, technology, math, things like that are going to be probably in high demand, but also, information technology and things like that, computers. So that is all I have for you today. Again, my name is Joel Hoots. I'm a CRC or a vocational rehab counselor with PVA. Does anyone have any questions?